Psalm 2. Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth rise up and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break the chains and throw off the shackles. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord shouts at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, I have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son today. I have become your father. Ask me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with a rod of iron, you will dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, you kings, be wise, be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss his son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to your destruction. For his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Psalm 2 reveals God's supreme authority over the nations and highlights the futility of human rebellion against him. The psalm begins by describing the nations and the rulers joining together to oppose the Lord and his anointed king. They believe they can free themselves from God's authority and live independently of Him. However, their plans are ultimately empty because no human power can overthrow God's sovereign purposes. The psalm then shifts to God's response. Rather than being threatened by the rebellion of earthly rulers, God remains enthroned in heaven, fully in control. He declares that He has established His chosen king on Zion, demonstrating that his plans cannot be changed by human opposition. The king speaks next, declaring God's decree and his unique relationship with the Lord. God promises him authority over all nations and the ends of the earth, emphasizing that his reign extends over every people and kingdom. This section points to God's universal rule and, in Christian understanding, ultimately finds its fulfillment in Jesus Christ, the promised Messiah. In the final verses, the psalm changes from declaration to invitation. Kings, rulers, and all people are urged to be wise, serve the Lord with reverence, and submit to his authority, rather than continuing in rebellion. They are called to trust in God's anointed. The psalm concludes with a promise of blessing for everyone who takes refuge in him. Psalm 2 teaches that while people may resist God's rule, his purposes will always prevail. It reminds us that true wisdom is found in humble submission to God, and that lasting security and blessing belong to those who place their trust in Him rather than in human power of their own understanding.